Hi and welcome to Mind 123. I'm Chantal and I'm here today with Shiiké Vanderwerff. Welcome along, Shiiké.
Thank you, Chantal. It's so great to be here.
Now today we're talking about 3 steps to being authentic.
And the value of being authentic. You know, who are we when we're not living our lives for somebody else?
Absolutely.
This is an ancient question. And whether you're talking about self-realization or the newer interpretation as the best version of yourself, you know, what are the steps to unlocking this process? Because it's easy to live for other people.
Absolutely.
And we know the story well. You know, as soon as you learn to walk and talk, somebody tells you how to do that to get what you need. And who we have to be for our parents and the people close to us changes when we go to school and we learn about his authority. And then if you make it to be a teenager, my goodness, everyone's telling you how to live. What to wear, what to eat, who to like, all of these sorts of things. But it doesn't stop there because this process is so ingrained in us that you can go to university or take a gap year or you can do the marriage, mortgage, maternity, or not. But it's very hard to realise when we are living for other people. And this came to the fore recently in her wonderful book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. Bronnie Ware was a palliative care nurse. So she had people right at the end of their life and she asked them what are the things they regret most. And of course, the intuitive feeling is, it was to spend more time with your loved ones.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
That wasn't the answer.
No, they regret not living for themselves. That was her number one finding. And it speaks to this, well, who are we to be authentic? And what does it mean when we don't live to other people's standards, when we're driven by our own values and our own visions?
Okay, so talk us through those 3 steps.
3 steps are around what we call proactivity. And proactivity was introduced to me through Stephen Covey's wonderful book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The number 1 personal development, professional development book ever written. And he talks about the proactivity coming in 3 steps. The first step is that you have to recognise that you can be. Now, the opposite to being proactive is, of course, being reactive. And this is where we point the fingers outwards and we say that what I'm doing and how I'm living is a result of all the things around me. To be proactive means that you are now able to step up and be accountable and be responsible as the dominant influence on your life. So everything you've done, consciously or unconsciously, everything you've chosen has brought you to where you are today. And everything you choose to do today has an influence on tomorrow. So that's to acknowledge that, that's the first step. The second step, of course, is that we do need to accept things we can't change. And I'm not just talking about the weather, I'm talking about people in our life. I mean, I'm a parent of 3 children, I would love to be able to change another person, make them think or feel or do things, but I can't. I can only influence those things. And I need to, if I'm putting a lot of the vested energy in trying to change things that I can't, then I'm not going to have much energy left for changing the things that I can, which of course is that 3rd step. So acknowledging or taking accountability for where you are in your life, number 1, the light bulb goes on. And that's a hard one. That can be really confronting. I know as a young man I was doing a lot of martial arts competitions and had at a local level a lot of success. My coaches told me I was ready for a national level, which I went to, and in my first 12 months I got eliminated from every tournament. And you know, if you asked me, Shiiké, how'd you go on the weekend? I would tell you, I got knocked out in the first round, Chantal, but you know, the mats were really slippery and the lights were really bad, and the referee was blind and the judges had a political agenda, and I was just full of reactions. Now, I was unchecked. My coaches didn't point this out to me. It took a good friend who's not even involved in the martial arts to say, do you listen to yourself? And it was that moment that the light bulb went on. I wasn't actually doing anything differently to go from a local level to a national level. I was still preparing as a local athlete. Now, this was a real humbling experience for me, and acknowledging can be, because as Dr. Seuss tells us, if it's to be, it's up to me. And we'd like to think that it's somebody else's fault. Getting through the first step, accepting the things we can't change, and then when I say change the things we can, that is about conscious choice. What do I want to do if I choose to? That then enables us to start going, well, this is the life I want to live for me.
So when it comes to that particular step that you're talking about, can you give us any practical examples of how we can make that decision?
what I am going to say, which is kind of speaking to this in a bit of a roundabout way, is that the fundamental learning from all of this is that the answers are within all of us to live an authentic expression of our own lives and to express ourselves completely in our families and in our workplace. That comes from us. We don't need to look for that answer anywhere else. Sure, we need to be influenced and inspired and we engage with the people around us. But what I'm really saying is that we are our number one asset and it's so easy to forget that. You know, in coaching we talk about the pyramid principle. So how do I raise the apex of the pyramid? Well, I have to invest in the foundations. And that speaks to us when we invest in ourselves. So our own self-care. And I'm not just talking about moving and eating and sleeping. I'm also talking about how you're thinking and what you're feeling. And learning to nourish those parts of ourselves makes being proactive a whole lot easier.
Now, you gave the example earlier of that sporting analogy, and as you were describing that, I was thinking, gee, there's a lot of famous sports people and sports teams that react in exactly the same way as you did personally. So my question is this, if you've got a teenager, and you spoke about this, or if you've got children, are there any ways that you can go about actually helping them work through these 3 steps that you've just talked about? I know you said it's quite an internal process, but as a parent, is there any advice that you can give us in regards to helping someone else?
I would say the application is quite direct and start as young as you possibly can, because the more self-determining young children can be within the parental framework, the more self-determining they will be and the stronger their own sense of self will be. And by that especially, keep it simple. But can, you know, if you're having friend issues, you know, can you make somebody else behave in a certain way? Can you control what you can only, and it speaks about them, how they do control, how they do speak and how they behave towards you. But what speaks about you is how you behave, and this is what you're in control of. So start early, start the whole idea of accountability and responsibility, and don't be afraid to disappoint your child. I hope my kids are watching, but I've been relishing the opportunity to disappoint them their whole lives. Not because I'm like I've got an evil streak in me, although that's probably true, but the idea of that, I know that they, through disappointment and through maybe not getting everything their own way this time, gives them the opportunity to be more accountable for where they are and what they do have.
And to learn. And
the sense of achievement when they do achieve something is, as a result, quite real. It's not a 10th place ribbon for participating. And I understand the empathy for that, but unfortunately it doesn't give them, the research shows that child feels embarrassed because the people who did try and train really hard have just been devalued.
From that situation. Okay, so we have covered a lot of ground today, so can you just quickly bullet point for me our 3 steps to being authentic one more time?
Acknowledge.
Number 1.
Accept. Act.
And act.
What can you do if you choose to?
Shiiké, thank you so much.
Authenticity, that's 4 A's.
That is 4 A's.
4 A's. The 4 A's of authenticity.
Yeah, we've got a new title now.
The book's being written.
Shiiké, thank you so much. It's been really fascinating learning about, you know, those ways and the techniques that you've talked us through. And I think, as you said, it's coming back to yourself, you know, really thinking about how that affects ourselves. You know.
You can't separate your self-care and your own personal needs from that authentic conversation.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Shiiké.
You're very welcome.